The laptop sat open on our kitchen island, like a loaded weapon I didn't know was there. Vera had rushed out 15 minutes earlier, coffee still steaming in her abandoned mug, muttering something about traffic and Marcus needing those quarterly reports before noon. She'd grabbed her purse, kissed my cheek with distracted lips, and vanished into another Tuesday morning that felt exactly like every other Tuesday morning in our 8-year marriage. Except for the browser tab she'd left open. I wasn't snooping. Let me be clear about that from the start. I was loading the dishwasher, being the dutiful husband who cleans up after breakfast, while his ambitious wife conquers the marketing world one campaign at a time. The laptop screen caught my eye because it was still glowing, and Vera was religious about closing everything down. Energy conservation, she always said. Good for the planet, good for the electric bill. But there it was. Chrome browser, 3 tabs open, Gmail, company portal, and something called Air France, booking confirmation. My hands stopped moving. Soap suds dripped from the plate I was holding. Air France. Vera hadn't mentioned any trips. We'd talked about maybe taking a vacation this fall, somewhere warm but nothing concrete, nothing that required Air France. I set the plate down carefully and walked over to the laptop. The screensaver hadn't kicked in yet. The booking confirmation glowed cheerfully in corporate blue and white. 2 tickets, Paris Charles de Gaulle, departure in 9 days. Thursday, October 12th, 6:45 p.m. Seat 4A, V. Solon. Seat 4B, M. Hallen. Neither ticket said Cole Solon. I stared at that screen for what felt like an hour, but was probably 30 seconds. My brain processed the information in slow motion, like a computer with too many programs running. V. Solon. That was Vera. Obviously, M. Hallen. That was Marcus Hallen, senior director at Vera's company. The man who'd been texting her at odd hours about project timelines and urgent client needs. The man she'd mentioned more and more frequently over the past 6 months. Marcus thinks this. Marcus says that. Marcus wants us to restructure the entire campaign. Marcus apparently was going to Paris with my wife. I took a screenshot, then another one, capturing the full booking details. Hotel confirmation attached, Le Bristol, 2 rooms adjoining, 5 nights, return tickets for the following Tuesday. My hands moved automatically, saving the images to a folder I created called Household Receipts. Nothing suspicious about that, just a husband organizing family documents. Then I closed the laptop gently, exactly as Vera had left it, and finished loading the dishwasher. The rest of the morning passed in a strange fog. I went to work. I manage IT infrastructure for a mid-sized insurance company, the kind of job that pays well enough but never makes anyone rich, and sat through meetings about server upgrades and security protocols. I nodded at appropriate moments and contributed when asked, but my mind kept circling back to those 2 seats on Air France Flight 447, 4A and 4B, side by side. Paris. During lunch, I did what any rational person would do in my situation. I Googled Marcus Hallen, plenty of results. Company bio on the firm's website, LinkedIn profile showcasing his rise through the marketing ranks, local business journal article about innovative campaign strategies, and buried on page 3 of search results, a wedding announcement from 12 years ago. Marcus Hallen and Alara Whitman, married at St. Catherine's Episcopal Church. The photo showed a younger Marcus with slightly more hair and a woman with intelligent eyes and an honest smile. Alara Hallen, Marcus's wife. I wondered if she knew about Paris. The afternoon crawled by. I answered help desk tickets and pretended to care about password resets, while my phone burned in my pocket with those screenshots. By 5 o'clock, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Vera. Not yet. Instead, I drove home and cooked dinner like nothing had changed. Vera arrived at 7:30, apologizing for the late night at the office. Marcus had needed to review the Morrison account presentation, she explained. Big client meeting tomorrow. How's Marcus doing? I asked, stirring the pasta sauce. Seems like he's been working you pretty hard lately. He's under a lot of pressure, Vera said, not meeting my eyes. The fourth quarter numbers need to be strong, and the Morrison deal could make or break our annual targets. Must be stressful, for him and his family. I suppose. I don't really know much about his personal life. She said it too quickly, too defensively. Doesn't he have a wife? Kids? Wife, no kids. Look, can we not talk about work? I've been dealing with office politics all day. We ate dinner and watched Netflix. Vera checked her phone twice during the show, typing quick responses with her screen tilted away from me. When she thought I wasn't looking, I caught glimpses of message previews. Looking forward to... Can't wait until... Just 9 more days. That night, after Vera fell asleep, I lay staring at the ceiling and planning my next move. I could hire a private investigator. I could follow them. I could burst into tears and demand an explanation, or I could do something more creative. By morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do. But first, I needed to make a phone call. Ilara Hallen answered on the second ring. Her voice was warm but cautious, the tone of someone who doesn't recognize the number calling. Hello? Mrs. Hallen? This is Cole Solon. I'm married to Vera Solon. She works with your husband, Marcus. 30 seconds of silence. I could hear her breathing, processing. I see, she said finally. What can I do for you, Mr. Solon? I think we should meet for coffee. I believe we have some things to discuss. Another pause. Longer this time. What kind of things? The kind that involve Paris and business trips that aren't exactly business. I heard her sharp intake of breath. When and where? She asked. We met the next day at a Starbucks, 15 minutes from both our neighborhoods, neutral territory. I arrived early and claimed a corner table, ordering a black coffee I didn't want, and watching the door. Ilara Hallen walked in at exactly 2 p.m. She was prettier than her wedding photo, with silver threading through dark hair and the kind of composure that comes from years of practice. She spotted me immediately. I'd described my blue jacket and told her I'd be the guy looking uncomfortable. Cole? I stood and shook her hand. Mrs. Hallen, thank you for coming. Ilara, and I brought something I think you'll want to see. She set a manila folder on the table between us, thick with papers. Before opening it, she studied my face. How long have you known? She asked. 2 days. You? I've been suspicious for months, but I didn't have proof until yesterday. She opened the folder. Inside were printed emails, expense reports, hotel confirmations, and credit card statements. A paper trail of deception laid out in chronological order. Barcelona in March, she said, sliding a hotel receipt across the table. Marcus told me it was a client conference. Rooms 412 and 414, adjacent. I examined the receipt. March 15th to 18. The same dates Vera had told me she was attending a marketing symposium. London in June. Another receipt. Vancouver in August. Seattle in September. Always the same story. Business travel, client meetings, conference presentations. Vera's been to all these places, I said. Same dates. I know. I started checking after I found a receipt in Marcus's jacket pocket. Room service for 2, champagne and strawberries. Not exactly standard business fare. Ilara's voice was steady, but I could see the anger burning behind her calm exterior. This was a woman who'd been lied to repeatedly, systematically, by someone she'd trusted for 12 years. The Paris trip, I said. That's what made me call you. I saw it on his calendar yesterday. Client development, he said. 3 days in Paris to court a potential French account. Except I called the company directory. There is no French account. We sat in silence for a moment, 2 betrayed spouses sharing the bitter coffee of discovery. What do you want to do about it? I asked. Ilara smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. I want them to remember this trip for the rest of their lives, she said. but probably not in the way they're expecting. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots from Vera's laptop. I still have access to her travel account, I said. Shared password from when we used to plan vacations together, before she got too busy with Marcus to travel with her husband. What are you thinking? I'm thinking two can play the upgrade game. Alara leaned forward, interested. Vera booked Economy Plus, seats 4A and 4B, but Air France has first class available on that flight. I checked this morning. You want to upgrade them? I want to upgrade them and add a third seat, 4C, right between them. Understanding dawned in Alara's eyes. You want me on that plane. I want you in that middle seat when they board. I want them to spend 8.5 hours trapped at 30,000 feet with the wife of the man Vera's been sleeping with. That's... Alara paused, considering. That's actually brilliant. There's more. Marcus expensed this trip as client development. But there's no client. That's company fraud. I know someone in your husband's accounting department who's been asking questions about his travel expenses. Linda Morrison. She's mentioned irregularities to me at company parties. Linda Morrison. I'm going to send her a very detailed email about Marcus's travel patterns. With documentation. Alara gathered her papers and slid them back into the folder. When do we do this? Tonight. I'll handle the flight changes. You handle Linda Morrison. By tomorrow morning, Marcus and Vera will have first-class seats to Paris and a very uncomfortable conversation waiting for them. What about after? When they come home? I finished my coffee and stood up. After they come home, Mrs. Hallen, the real fun begins. That evening, I sat at my home computer like a hacker planning the crime of the century, except my crime was perfectly legal, just creatively vindictive. Vera was working late again. Another emergency meeting with Marcus about the Morrison account. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was probably planning her romantic getaway while lying about client presentations. I logged into her travel account using the password we'd shared since our honeymoon. Paris, one day 2016. Back when we'd dreamed of seeing the Eiffel Tower together someday. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. The Air France booking pulled up immediately. 2 seats, Economy Plus, total cost $2,847. Charged to Vera's personal credit card, not the company account. At least she wasn't stupid enough to expense her affair. I clicked the upgrade option. First class availability, yes. Additional cost, $1,200 per seat. I selected both seats and added the charges to her card. If she was going to cheat, she could pay first-class prices for the privilege. Then came the tricky part, adding a third passenger. The system wanted passport information for the new traveler. I'd asked Alara to text me her details during our coffee meeting. Alara Jane Hallen, passport number, expiration date, all the information I needed to book seat 4C. The airline's computer processed the request without complaint. 3 passengers, first class, row 4. Seats A, B, and C. Confirmation numbers sent to the respective email addresses. I leaned back in my chair and admired my work. In 9 days, Marcus and Vera would board their romantic flight to Paris and find Mrs. Marcus Hallen seated between them with 8.5 hours to discuss their relationship. But I wasn't finished. I opened a new browser window and composed an email to Linda Morrison, CFO assistant at Vera's company. I'd met Linda at the annual Christmas party. Sharp woman, late 50s, with the kind of attention to detail that made embezzlers nervous. Dear Mrs. Morrison, I hope this email finds you well. I'm writing to bring some concerning travel expenses to your attention. I believe Senior Director Marcus Hallen may be billing personal travel as business expenses. Attached, you'll find documentation showing a pattern of questionable trips over the past 6 months. Each trip was expensed as client development or conference attendance, but I have reason to believe these were personal vacations. The upcoming Paris trip, October 12-17, is particularly concerning, as Mr. Hallen has listed it as client development for a French account that doesn't appear to exist in the company directory. I understand this is a serious allegation, and I want to be clear that I'm not making it lightly. However, I believe the company deserves to know how its travel budget is being used. Please let me know if you need any additional information. Respectfully, a concerned employee. I attached copies of the expense reports Alara had shared, being careful to black out any information that might identify her as the source. Then I created a temporary email account and sent the message. Linda Morrison would receive it first thing tomorrow morning. By the time Marcus and Vera boarded their flight, he'd likely be facing questions from HR about his creative accounting. My phone buzzed with a text from Alara. Linda says she's been waiting for someone to give her ammunition. Marcus is going to have a very uncomfortable conversation tomorrow. Perfect. Vera came home at 10:30, looking flushed and excited. She'd been drinking. I could smell wine on her breath when she kissed my cheek. Good day? I asked. Really good. The Morrison presentation went perfectly. Marcus thinks we'll close the deal by Friday. That's wonderful. You must be proud of all your hard work. I am, and Marcus is taking the team out to celebrate tomorrow night. I might be late. Of course. Celebrate away. She headed upstairs to shower, humming something under her breath. I watched her go and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. In 8 days, she'd be humming a very different tune. The next morning brought exactly the chaos I'd hoped for. Vera left for work in her usual rush, but her phone started ringing before she reached the car. I watched from the kitchen window as she answered, saw her face change from cheerful to confused to worried. She was still on the call when she drove away. 20 minutes later, my own phone rang. Alara. Linda called Marcus into her office at 8:30, she said. He's been there for 45 minutes. I can hear raised voices through the wall. What about Vera? HR called her in 10 minutes ago. Linda shared the expense reports with them. Apparently, your wife's travel schedule matches Marcus's perfectly. Same cities, same dates, same hotels. How much trouble are they in? Enough. The company takes fraud seriously, especially when it involves senior management. They're both suspended pending investigation. I felt a surge of vindictive pleasure. So they'll have plenty of time to enjoy Paris. Oh, they're still going. Marcus came home an hour ago furious and ranting about being set up. He says the Paris trip is already paid for, and he's not letting some accounting witch ruin his vacation. He called Linda a witch? Among other things. I recorded most of his tantrum. Might be useful later. What did you tell him about the suspension? I told him it sounded serious, and maybe he should consider staying home to deal with it. He told me to mind my own business and stormed out. Where did he go? Probably to meet Vera. They're going to need to coordinate their stories. I smiled. Let them coordinate all they wanted. In 7 days, they'd have bigger problems than HR investigations. Alara, are you ready for this? Really ready? Because once you're on that plane, there's no backing down. Cole, I've been married to a lying, cheating fraud for 12 years. I've spent every anniversary wondering if he was really at the office late or in a hotel room with someone else. I'm more than ready. Good. Because I have a feeling this is going to be the most memorable flight of their lives. The week passed like a slow-motion countdown to detonation. Vera and Marcus tried to maintain normal routines while dealing with their work crisis, but the stress was showing. Vera started sleeping poorly, tossing and turning beside me while checking her phone at all hours. She claimed it was anxiety about the HR investigation, but I caught glimpses of her text messages. Constant communication with Marcus about handling the situation and staying strong. Maybe we should postpone the Paris trip, I suggested over dinner Wednesday night. With everything going on at work, it might look bad to take a vacation right now. It's not a vacation, Vera snapped. It's a business development opportunity. Marcus has been planning this for months. I thought he was suspended. Temporarily, until they sort out this ridiculous accounting error. Error? Someone obviously mixed up his expense reports with someone else's. Marcus would never bill personal travel to the company. Her loyalty was touching and completely misplaced. Thursday brought more drama. Ilara called with updates from Marcus's increasingly frantic behavior. "He spent 3 hours on the phone with lawyers yesterday," she reported, "trying to figure out if he can sue the company for wrongful suspension. Any luck?" The lawyers told him to keep his mouth shut and cooperate with the investigation. Apparently, expense fraud is a fireable offense, and he's lucky they haven't pressed criminal charges. How's he handling that news? About as well as you'd expect. He threw a coffee mug at the wall and blamed me for not being supportive enough. Are you okay? I'm fine, and I'm more motivated than ever to see this through. Marcus deserves everything that's coming to him. Friday afternoon, I received an email that made my day complete. Linda Morrison, writing from her company account. Dear concerned employee, thank you for bringing the expense irregularities to our attention. Our investigation has revealed significant misuse of company travel funds by Mr. Hallen and Ms. Solon. Both employees have been suspended pending further review. We take fraud very seriously and appreciate employees who have the courage to report misconduct. Your identity will remain confidential throughout this process. Sincerely, Linda Morrison, CFO, Office. I forwarded the email to Ilara with a simple message. Phase 1 complete. The weekend was surreal. Vera packed for Paris while pretending everything was normal. She folded clothes carefully, selected jewelry, and charged her camera battery. The picture of a woman preparing for a romantic getaway, except her husband was sitting 10 feet away, watching her pack for a trip with another man. "You'll miss me while I'm gone?" she asked Sunday night. "Terribly," I lied. "It's only 5 days. I'll bring you back something nice from Paris." "I'm sure you will." She kissed me goodbye Monday morning with what I'm sure she thought was convincing affection. I kissed her back and wished her a wonderful trip. "Have fun with Marcus," I said. She froze for just a moment. "It's a business trip, Cole." "Of course it is. Tell Marcus I said hello." After she left, I called in sick to work and drove to the airport, not to follow them. That would have been too obvious. I just wanted to see their faces when they discovered the seating arrangement. I positioned myself at a coffee stand with a clear view of the Air France gate and waited. Marcus arrived first, looking nervous but excited. He checked his phone constantly and kept scanning the terminal. When Vera appeared 20 minutes later, they maintained careful distance. Professional colleagues, nothing more. They boarded separately. Marcus, in the first-class line, Vera hanging back to board with Group 2, both trying to avoid being seen together. I imagined the scene playing out 30,000 feet above me. Marcus finding his seat, settling in with a satisfied smile. Vera approaching row 4, expecting to find her lover waiting. Instead, finding Ilara Hallen in seat 4C, reading a magazine and looking perfectly comfortable. My phone buzzed with a text from Ilara sent just before takeoff. "Wheels up in 5 minutes. They both look like they've seen a ghost. This is going to be a long flight." I drove home smiling. The real show was just beginning. Ilara's first text came 3 hours into the flight. Marcus tried to switch seats. Flight attendant told him first class is completely booked. He's trapped. I was at home, supposedly sick with food poisoning, following their progress on the airline's flight tracker. 8 hours and 43 minutes from Cleveland to Paris, plenty of time for uncomfortable conversations. The next message arrived an hour later. Vera keeps trying to make small talk, asks me what brings me to Paris. I told her I'm surprising my husband. You should have seen her face. I could picture it perfectly. Vera's practiced smile faltering as she realized exactly who was sitting between her and Marcus, the slow, dawning horror as the implications sank in. "Flight attendant offered champagne," came the next update. I accepted. Marcus and Vera both declined. They're not looking very celebratory. I spent the afternoon imagining their misery while organizing my next moves. The plane confrontation was just the opening act. By the time they returned from Paris, I wanted their entire world restructured. I started with the house. Vera and I owned it jointly, but I'd been making the mortgage payments from my account for 3 years. Time to make some changes. I called our bank and put a hold on any transactions requiring both signatures. Then I changed the locks and had a security system installed. If Vera wanted back in, she'd have to ask nicely. Next, I visited a lawyer, not for divorce papers, not yet. I wanted to understand my options and protect my assets. The consultation was enlightening. Adultery isn't grounds for a different property split in this state, the lawyer explained. But if you can prove financial misconduct or hidden assets, that changes things. What about using marital funds to pay for trips with her lover? That could be considered dissipation of marital assets. How much are we talking about? I showed him the credit card statements I'd printed. Paris wasn't Vera's first expensive adventure with Marcus. This is substantial, he said. We can definitely work with this. By evening, I had a plan. Legal, thorough, and designed to make Vera's return from Paris as unpleasant as possible. My phone rang at midnight. Ilara, calling from Paris. How did it go? I asked. Better than I could have hoped. I waited until we were at cruising altitude, then I opened my folder. What folder? All of Marcus's expense reports, hotel receipts, credit card statements, restaurant bills for two. I spread them across both their tray tables like a buffet of evidence. What did they say? Marcus tried to deny everything, said the receipts were from legitimate business dinners. I asked him to explain why he ordered 2 desserts at a romantic restaurant in Barcelona when he was supposedly dining with clients. And Vera? Vera went pale and stopped talking. She spent the rest of the flight staring out the window while Marcus tried to convince me I was misunderstanding everything. Did other passengers notice? The flight attendant definitely did. She kept finding excuses to walk by our row. At one point, she offered me tissues and whispered that she was enjoying the show. What happens now? Now they're stuck in Paris together, knowing their secret is out, while I'm staying at a different hotel and documenting everything for my lawyer. You're not going home? Oh, I'm going home, but not until I've had a lovely solo vacation in Paris. I'm charging everything to Marcus's credit card, the one he was planning to use for his romantic getaway. I laughed. That's perfect. Cole, there's something else. Marcus was on the phone during our layover in New York. I heard him talking to someone about damage control. I think they're planning to claim this was all a misunderstanding. Let them try. I've got more surprises waiting when they get home. What kind of surprises? The kind that make 8 hours of airplane awkwardness look like a minor inconvenience. After hanging up, I spent an hour researching private investigators. Not to follow Vera. I already knew everything I needed to know. But I wanted professional documentation of her activities. Photos, timestamps, witness statements, evidence that would hold up in court. The PI I hired was a former cop named Janet Murphy, 50s, no nonsense, with 30 years of experience catching cheating spouses. This is pretty straightforward, she said after reviewing my case. Your wife and her lover are in Paris together, probably sharing a hotel room despite booking separately. I can have someone document their activities and provide a full report. How much? For 5 days in Paris, including travel and expenses, $15,000. Do it. It was expensive, but worth every penny. When Vera came home claiming the trip was purely business, I'd have professional photographs proving otherwise. Tuesday brought news from both fronts. Janet's contact in Paris sent photos of Marcus and Vera having dinner at a romantic bistro, holding hands across the table. They'd also been photographed entering the same hotel room at the Bristol. So much for separate accommodations. Meanwhile, Ilara was having the time of her life. Her Instagram feed showed her at the Louvre, the Eiffel Tower, and various cafes, looking relaxed and happy. Each photo was tagged with Marcus's location, making it clear she was following him around the city. Psychological warfare, she explained when I called. Marcus keeps running into me at tourist attractions. Yesterday he saw me at the Arc de Triomphe and nearly had a panic attack. Is Vera with him? Always. They're trying to act like a normal couple. but they're constantly looking over their shoulders. I think they're afraid I'm going to cause a scene in public. Are you? I'm saving the scenes for when we get home. Paris is too beautiful to waste on those two. Wednesday brought the first sign that my plan was working perfectly. Vera called from Paris, sounding stressed and exhausted. Cole, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Of course. Did you tell Marcus's wife about our trip? I paused, letting the silence stretch. What trip? Don't play games with me. Ilara Hallen is in Paris. She's staying at our hotel. She keeps showing up everywhere we go. That's strange. What a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. She knows about Marcus and me. She confronted us on the plane with receipts and expense reports. Sounds like Marcus has some explaining to do. Cole, please, did you tell her? Vera, I think you're being paranoid. Maybe Mrs. Hallen just wanted a vacation in Paris. It's a popular destination. She's following us. Or maybe you're following her. Hard to say. Vera hung up without saying goodbye. I could hear the frustration and fear in her voice. The perfect romantic getaway had turned into a nightmare of surveillance and confrontation. Exactly as planned. Thursday brought the best news yet. Linda Morrison called to update me on the company investigation. We've completed our review, she said. Both employees will be terminated upon their return. The evidence of expense fraud is overwhelming. What happens next? They'll be given the opportunity to make restitution for the misused funds, but their employment is finished. We can't have senior staff stealing from the company. How much money are we talking about? Approximately $47,000 in fraudulent expenses over 8 months, plus the cost of the investigation and legal review. I whistled. That's serious money. Mr. Hallen and Ms. Solon are going to have a very unpleasant conversation when they return to work Friday morning. Friday morning, the same day their flight landed. Perfect timing. I spent Thursday evening preparing for Vera's return. I'd changed the locks, installed security cameras, and moved her belongings to the guest room. When she came home expecting to resume normal life, she'd find a very different situation waiting. My phone buzzed with a final update from Ilara. Boarding the return flight now. Marcus looks like he hasn't slept in days. Vera won't make eye contact with anyone. I'm in first class again, seat 4C. They tried to change seats, but I told the gate agent there had been a misunderstanding with the booking. One more flight of awkward silence? One more flight of reckoning. By the time we land in Cleveland, they'll both be ready to confess everything just to make this end. See you on the other side. See you on the other side. The plane took off at 11 a.m. Paris time. 8.5 hours later, Vera would be home, expecting to slip back into her double life. Instead, she'd find that her double life had collapsed while she was gone, and the real consequences were just beginning. I spent the evening making final preparations. Tomorrow would be the day of reckoning, and I intended to make it memorable. The flight tracker showed Air France 448 touching down at Cleveland Hopkins at 3:47 p.m. I wasn't at the airport this time. No need to witness their arrival. I was home, sitting in my kitchen with a cup of coffee and a folder full of evidence, waiting. Vera's key wouldn't work in the front door. I'd changed the locks that morning just to make a point. She'd have to ring the doorbell like a visitor, which is exactly what she was now. The bell rang at 5:23 p.m. I opened the door to find my wife standing on the porch with her suitcase, looking exhausted and confused. 5 days in Paris hadn't been kind to her. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, clothes wrinkled from travel. My key doesn't work, she said. I know. Why doesn't my key work, Cole? Because I changed the locks. She stared at me for a long moment, processing this information. Can I come in? It's my house too. Of course. We need to talk. I stepped aside and let her enter. She wheeled her suitcase into the foyer and looked around like she was seeing the place for the first time. Something's different, she said. I redecorated. Do you like it? What I'd actually done was remove every photograph that included her. Wedding pictures, vacation shots, anniversary dinners, all gone. The walls now displayed landscapes and abstract art, carefully chosen to erase any trace of our shared history. Where are our pictures? I put them somewhere safe. We'll sort through them later. Vera set down her purse and faced me directly. Cole, I think we should talk about what happened in Paris. I'd love to hear about your trip. How was the business development? Did Marcus make any progress with that French client? Her face went pale. You know. I know lots of things, Vera. Why don't you tell me what you think I know? She walked to the kitchen and sat down heavily at the island, the same spot where she'd left her laptop open a week ago. Elara Hallen was on our flight, she said. What a coincidence. She had receipts, Cole. Hotel bills and restaurant charges and expense reports. She knew about Barcelona and London and Vancouver. Sounds like Marcus has been sloppy with his record keeping. Stop playing games. You told her about the trip. You gave her those receipts. I sat down across from her and opened my folder. Actually, Vera, Elara had her own receipts. She'd been investigating Marcus's travel expenses for months. I just helped her connect the dots. I slid a photograph across the table. Vera and Marcus holding hands at a sidewalk cafe in Paris, taken 2 days ago. Where did you get this? Professional photographer, very discreet, very thorough. I added more photos to the pile. Vera and Marcus entering the hotel together, kissing in front of the Eiffel Tower, shopping for jewelry on the Champs-Élysées. You had me followed. I had you documented. There's a difference. Vera's hands shook as she looked through the photographs. Cole, I can explain. I'm sure you can. But first, let me share some news from the home front. I pulled out a letter from her company's HR department. This came yesterday. You've been terminated for expense fraud, effective immediately. They want you to report to the office Monday morning to return company property and discuss restitution. Restitution? $47,000 in fraudulent travel expenses, plus legal fees and investigation costs. They're being generous by not pressing criminal charges. Vera's face went from pale to green. I can't pay that. I know. That's why I spoke to a lawyer about protecting our assets. Well, my assets now. I showed her the legal documents I'd filed that afternoon. Dissipation of marital assets. Using joint funds to finance an extramarital affair. The court has frozen your access to our accounts pending a full financial review. You can't do this. I already did. Your credit cards have been canceled. Your name has been removed from the mortgage and car loans. Legally speaking, you're now a guest in this house. Vera stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. Where am I supposed to go? I hear Marcus is having similar problems. Maybe you two can figure it out together. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and showed her a text from Elara. Marcus came home to find his belongings on the front lawn. Locks changed, divorce papers taped to the door. He's currently sitting in his car in the driveway making phone calls. Elara threw him out. Elara documented 12 years of marriage to a serial cheater and hired the best divorce attorney in the city. Marcus is about to discover how expensive adultery can be. Vera put her head in her hands. This is insane. It was just a trip. A few days away. It doesn't mean anything. Just a trip? Vera, you've been having an affair for 8 months. Barcelona, London, Vancouver, Seattle, and now Paris. You've spent thousands of our dollars on hotel rooms and romantic dinners with another man. You've lied to my face every day for most of this year. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did go this far. And now you get to live with the consequences. My phone rang. Marcus Hallen, according to the caller ID. Should I answer it? I asked Vera. She nodded weakly. Hello, Marcus. How was Paris? You son of a... He caught himself. We need to talk. I'm listening. This has gone too far. Elara's lost her mind. She's filed for divorce and cleaned out our bank accounts. She's claiming I committed fraud. Did you commit fraud? That's not the point. The point is, you've destroyed 2 marriages over a simple misunderstanding. Marcus, I have photographs of you and my wife kissing in front of the Eiffel Tower. What exactly did I misunderstand? Silence on the other end. Look, he said finally, maybe we can work something out. Vera and I made a mistake, but we can fix this. We can all be adults about it. You're right, Marcus. We can all be adults. Adults face consequences for their actions. Adults take responsibility for their choices. Adults don't blame other people when their lies catch up with them. What do you want? I want you to stay away from my wife. I want you to pay back the money you stole from your company. And I want you to disappear from our lives completely. And if I don't, then the photographs go to your company's board of directors, your professional associations, and every social media platform I can find. Your affair will become public knowledge, and your career will be over. I hung up and turned back to Vera. He wants to work something out, I said. What kind of something? The kind where you both pretend this was all a misunderstanding and go back to your normal lives. Couldn't we? Couldn't we try to fix this? I looked at my wife of 8 years, the woman I'd loved, trusted, and built a life with, the woman who'd been lying to me for months while planning romantic getaways with another man. Vera, there's nothing left to fix. You made your choice when you booked those tickets to Paris. You chose Marcus over me, excitement over stability, lies over truth. Now, you get to live with that choice. So what happens now? Now you pack whatever you need for tonight and find somewhere else to stay. Tomorrow you can start looking for a job and a lawyer. Next week you can explain to your family and friends why your marriage ended. Cole, please, can't we at least try counseling? I stood up and walked to the window. Outside I could see Marcus's car parked across the street. He was still sitting behind the wheel, probably trying to figure out his next move. The time for trying was before you got on that plane, I said. Now it's time for consequences. Vera went upstairs to pack. I heard her moving around in our bedroom, opening drawers and closets. When she came back down, she was carrying an overnight bag and crying. I'm sorry, she said. I'm really, truly sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo 8 months of lies. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. She walked to the door, then turned back. Will you at least think about counseling? In a few weeks, when things calm down? Vera, things are never going to calm down. This is the new normal. You and Marcus destroyed 2 marriages for a few romantic weekends. Now, you get to live with the wreckage. She left without another word. I watched from the window as she walked to Marcus's car and got in the passenger seat. They sat there for a few minutes, probably discussing their options, before driving away. My phone buzzed with a text from Alara. Is it over? It's over, I replied. How do you feel? I considered the question. How did I feel? Angry, certainly. Betrayed, obviously. But also something else. Something like relief. Free, I texted back. Good. That's exactly how you should feel. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in my quiet house, surrounded by the absence of lies. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and paperwork and difficult conversations. But tonight, for the first time in months, I could relax. The laptop was still on the kitchen island where Vera had left it a week ago. I opened it and deleted her browser history, her saved passwords, her bookmarks to travel sites and romantic restaurants. Then I booked myself a trip to Paris. First class, 1 passenger, 1 seat. It was time